This morning, I'm going to be leading a staff development meeting over a model classroom project, which we have broken into professional learning communities based upon what the teachers said that they showed an interest in. This is going to be our last meeting. We've actually met 8 times now. We meet about once a month, and our meetings last about 20 to 25 minutes because that's all the time that we have before the kids arrive at school. The focus of our meeting, our topic has been thinking, the thinking strand of the Model Classroom Project, and we are really looking at seeing how we can get all of the students in the classroom to think at a deeper level and to make sure that all of those students are participating in the thinking. We've been talking about so far in the past the frequency of the questions that the teachers ask and how often they're asking questions. Also, we've been looking at how many questions they're asking and how many students are actually responding to the question. In the past, a lot of times what we've accepted for good teaching was that a teacher asked a question, student raised their hand, and then the student answered. So that means that only one student was having to show what their thinking was and what they were doing and what their thoughts were in the classroom. The push is really to make sure that we have all of the students show their thinking about the questions that are asked. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll use some different simultaneity techniques where the students are pair sharing or doing a quick write or doing a visual cue or something to show how when a teacher asks a question, that each student is getting to respond to the question. So it's not just one student asking, so that there's more participation. So then we looked at that aspect of it, and then we looked at the level and the types of questioning that we have been asking, or teachers have been asking in the classroom, and the different level of the Bloom's taxonomy of how deep the questions were. And we're really trying to focus on making sure that each teacher, at least one time during their lesson cycle, that they would ask a question that was a deeper level of thinking, where the student had to stop and can maybe talk to their partner about what they were thinking the answer could be, have a discussion between them, and then have someone share or have some way of everyone showing it. So it's more of a deeper level question with one of those higher level Blooms, and making sure you have that cognitive verb that's being reinforced from what we have our 3-part objectives. We had this, this is the second time we've done this type of meeting with questions. The first time we did the meeting, the teachers were asked to bring a lesson plan or a read aloud or something so they could try to generate a question from. Very few teachers showed up with information, so when the actual activity came around to doing it, it was kind of hard for them to develop questions. So this time I made sure that I sent out an email reminder prior to saying, please make sure that when you come this morning that you have your lesson plan, or that you have your whatever thing you're going to use to help write your question, generate your questions from. So in the meeting today, I'm going to make sure that I take the time to review over the 3 type questions, what the steps are, ask a question, using that cognitive verb, letting the children have some time to think, and then also then having someone share the response. So we're going to go review that, and then I'm going to model a question using from a class that I would use in my classroom. So I'm going to share one of the books that I'm going to be reading aloud with my students today and explain how my question and how I generated that question, so they have a model and they have an example of what the question would look like and sound like, and how I would use it in my classroom. After I do that, I'm going to go around and kind of talk to each of the teachers to see if they have questions about how to generate their questions. We have teachers in these meetings that range from large group to special education to 1st grade through kindergarten and 5th grade. So we have teachers of all different grade levels represented in this PLC, and then we also have all the content areas. We do, like I said, we have math and science teachers, and then we have language art teachers, and then we also have teachers who are self-contained. So we do have a variety, so it kind of looks different, and we've talked about that in the past, of how each the questions obviously are going to sound different at a kindergarten level versus what they would sound like at a 4th or a 5th grade level, and versus the math content and also the reading content. So I'm going to make sure that I'm engaged with them, and that I'm going around, and that I am listening to them and guiding them through how to develop the questions and making sure that they are understanding the purpose of the lesson, and that this time when we go through, one of the closing activities that we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to have the teachers share the questions. A lot of times we've just had discussions about what was said in the time that they were working together, but I really want to make sure that they are producing a question so that they can use. And I also want to make sure that I address that how the more you practice at developing these questions, the more common it'll be easier for you to do, and so you'll be able to put them into their lesson plans a little bit easier. I'm also going to make sure that I have materials for them. There's an agenda. There's the three different types of questions on the back of the agenda. They're also going to have sticky notes so that whether it's their read aloud, they can put this, when they write their question, they can put the sticky note on top of the read aloud, or they can put it in their lesson plan. So when they have their lesson plans out, that they know this is the point that I want to address the questions. I'm going to talk to them also how and each classroom is different, and so the questions that are being generated are based upon what they know about their students and what should be done. I think that really making sure that we're involved in it and reinforcing that I'm wanting everyone to produce something, and that is the expectation. Hopefully you will get a lot of well-developed questions, and they'll understand that, okay, it really wasn't that hard and I can do this in the future. And then I'm also going to try to close up, because this is our last meeting where we are meeting as an individual PLC. All 4 PLCs that we've divided into are going to come back together for our next meeting. So I wanted to make sure I touch base with them so that they are prepared to be able to share about what they've learned. That's kind of like the closing, the very last wrapping of the activity, is preparing them for their next meeting so they know what to expect, since it will look a little bit differently. I think that you'll see that I'm also going to, my last time around, I left a piece of paper for them to fill out the survey, whether how I used the time wisely, was it relatable to their content, and stuff like that. So I left it for them to fill out and then just leave it anonymously on there. This time I'm going to actually email it out so they can print it out and fill it out, so that making sure that I get honest, because I feel like everyone feels a little bit pressured to make sure that she's standing kind of near me, she's going to see what I'm doing. So I want to make sure that it's anonymous, and that they can use the information or give the most honest answers about how they felt the information works, because I feel like that's what's really going to tell me about a presenter, or the topic of what I need to do to be able to change or make it better, and see how much information I've gotten back on it. And then that will be it for our PLC. After we're done with all of that, like I said, we're limited to 25 minutes because we have to be in our rooms for student arrival, but I'm going to make sure that I try to start on time, end on time, and send them off enjoying their Friday. We'll see what happens.